everyone. So today we have a very, very special episode for you. We are actually partnering with the Dental Graduate Rolodex to bring you all an educational series about something that's very important to us, especially those graduating dentists out there. Today we are talking about disability insurance. Yes, it's something that you should be thinking about for those D1s and those D2s. We understand that it might not be on your mind right now, but it's something that you definitely want to pay attention to. So today we have a panelist of 3 professionals who are going to talk to us all about disability insurance. Gentlemen, if you can, please introduce yourself and talk about becoming your respective company.
Great. Do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah, whoever wants to go first.
Right. That's fine. I'll jump in. Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Arsenault. I'm the founder and managing partner with Venture Insurance Group. We're a full-service independent insurance advisory group, really focused on working with healthcare professionals. And if you really start to look at the book of the business, I'd say that the majority of it is the dental space. So we provide services like advice on disability insurance, what we're talking about today, overhead expense for business owners, key person insurance, life insurance, group medical and non-medical. So there's a laundry list of other insurances, but it tends to be that disability is always one of the first conversations we have with our dental professionals. So I'm nationwide. I'm all over the place. I operate out of North Carolina. It's where I process all my business. But I'm originally from the New England area. I grew up right outside of Boston.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sean, me or you?
I'll hop in. Sure. Thanks for having us, guys. I'm Sean Johnson. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Treelor & Heisel. I've been with Treelor & Heisel for about 20 years. And what our firm does is we help dentists with personal insurance, business insurances, investment portfolios, and wealth management services. And we've been doing it for about 60 years. We've been working with dentists. In fact, we started in 1959, and from the very beginning, we've been in that market working with dentists. We have advisors across the nation. So in cities across the nation, there's an advisor that works with Treelor & Heisel and meets with our clients throughout their career. And in addition to our life and disability insurance offerings, we have an extensive dedicated service team here in our home office outside of Pittsburgh. We have a full property and casualty division, and of course that wealth management services department. I just appreciate being here. I just want to dive into just one thing I wanted to mention is how we're set up. So our advisors are not commissioned advisors for insurance. There's the insurance business and there's also the investment business. Instead, they're salaried and they're not incentivized by commissions. When it comes to the wealth management, Treelor & Heisel wealth management side of our business, our advisors are what are called investment advisor representatives, okay? And it's a little bit technical, but it's important because as an investment advisor representative, we're affiliated with something called a registered investment advisor. And for us, that firm's called the Wealth Consulting Group. What that means is we're fiduciaries. So we have a duty to serve your best interests at all times. And we really feel that this helps promote a more client-centered and independent approach to our business. So that's my little elevator speech. I appreciate your time for letting me say that.
All right, thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm also happy to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Tyler Destefano. So I started my practice in 2007, my insurance and financial planning practice, and did it as a startup with 0 clients, and honestly never thought in a million years I'd be working with dentists. I remember at the beginning I would literally take a meeting with anybody that would talk to me, and I thought it was gonna be like the movies where I got to my office and my phones were ringing off the hook and I had 4 computer monitors, and that certainly wasn't the case. And then 2008, by accident, started working with a few dental students from here in Boston and faculty, and just accidentally fell in love with dentistry and decided to commit to it and specialize. And from that point forward, every client we have is a dentist. That's all we do. Last year, I sold some equity in my practice, so 5 of my associates became partners. And I think, although it's a boring topic, disability insurance is really what we're known for out there and what I think we're great at. But there's a separate company that I own called Dental Transitions Group, so we're also brokers. We buy and sell a lot of dental offices, but I'm happy to be here and participate.
Awesome. Okay,
Great.
so for everyone out there, including myself, I'm not really well versed in the whole dental disability insurance field. So I guess if somebody could, kind of take the lead here and just discuss the significance of having dental disability insurance, as well as, how does this differ from a general insurance plan or something like that, that a traditional person would go after.
I guess I'll kick
Sure.
in here.
Okay.
So I think
Great,
the way to think about it is this. A dentist has spent a fortune on your education in terms of not just money but time and emotions, and your whole futures are predicated on the expectation that you can produce a boatload of dentistry for like a long time. And unlike any of us on this call, Sean or Jeff, we could do our jobs all day with a bad back or a bad hand, but for a dentist that could sabotage your career quickly. So that's what disability insurance is really for, is to protect the dentist, that if that bell rings and you can't be a dentist anymore, this actually kicks in.
Got you. Would you guys like to add in?
Yeah, sure. Just to reiterate what he's saying is, it's disability insurance, and it's a negative connotation, right? What it truly is income replacement. It's protecting truly your largest asset, right? Your ability to get up every day to work, to earn your money, which drives everything else that you're doing to build wealth, to build a business, to save, to retire, become independent. So that's what the product truly is. What triggers the contract to work for you is a disabling illness or injury, obviously, which takes you out and basically stops you from being able to do your job, specifically as a dentist. And we can get into some of those, the details of how to design a contract and stuff like that. But, that's, in my opinion, the difference is we want to protect truly what it is that our dentists are doing day in and day out, right? If they can't do dentistry, then they should be able to receive their benefit.
And so, typically we'll hear, and maybe not even with disability insurance, but we'll hear these horror stories of somebody trying to file an insurance claim and it actually not going through. And so, to kind of stick off or take off on a more specific question base, what's an example that a dentist might, invest in one of your all's companies, work with you all, and then for God knows what reason, they try to file and they're not eligible for the insurance plan or insurance claim that they initially signed up for? Has there been a situation like that?
If I take this one.
Sure.
Disability insurance has been around, well, we've been doing it for 60 years. And there's decades and decades and decades of case precedent, and the industry's evolved. And truly what I see, and we work with multiple different companies, insurance companies that provide disability insurance. They're in the business of paying claims. They visit our national office here and they talk, and they open up with, of your clients, here's how many people went on claim, here's how much we paid in benefits. In this day and age, with how free information is available to you, we're seeing a different experience than what may have been the case decades ago. They're good companies and they are honoring their promises when it comes to disability insurance, in my experience.
I think what I'll add to that is, Sean and Jeff, I know these guys, they're both professionals. They give really good advice. I think where people can get into trouble and where you hear their horror stories is some of these students might be inclined to go to their family friend that did their auto insurance, or the friend that did their home insurance. And it doesn't make that broker bad or unethical. But if you don't do hundreds and thousands of these, that broker could make a mistake, and the client could be the beneficiary of that down the road and not even know it. And honestly, I think that's where the trouble stories come from.
Definitely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
One, negative, that possibly a client or a prospective client would experience is with disability insurance, it's not an all or nothing type product, meaning when you go through underwriting, there may be things that the carrier are not going to cover, whether it's a pre-existing condition with the back, shoulder. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at statistics of disability claims, and the majority of them are still musculoskeletal, deterioration of the spine, neck, that sort of thing. And, dentists who are hunched over and doing that for many, many years, there's issues. So, that's probably a negative thing. It's the upfront underwriting process. There may be some restrictions or exclusions on a policy that, from a client's perspective, you say, wait a second, that potentially could happen to me, but you're going to exclude that. That's just the reality of it. And again, to what Tyler was saying, you have to sit across from an agent who has that experience and has the ability to communicate with their prospect, their client, very, very clearly up front that, we may experience this.
Right. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I reiterate that, in my experience, the most frustrating thing for me is when I can't help a client get a policy. And if you wait long enough that your health changes, and the insurance company, they review your health to see if they want to insure you.
Right.
And if you have a health change and then you go to apply, you could have a policy that doesn't cover everything that you wanted to cover, or maybe you don't get a policy at all. So to me, that's the negative part and the frustrating of what we have to do.
Got you. And I love that you brought that up, some certain things not being covered and whatnot. So I kind of want you guys to kind of shed a little bit of light of some small line issues or things to look out for, specifically when you're signing a contract. Like, what are some things that we should definitely steer, away from? What are some things that we should look for to implement within our contracts when we get started? I guess, I'm sure you could talk all day about it, but just a few key tidbits to look out for.
I mean, the one thing I'll say is you want a guaranteed contract. You don't want a contract that's tied to a residency or an association or a job where you have it and then you don't have it. And I tell my clients all the time, I know it's appealing that it's like $50 a month, but whenever disability is $50 a month, it doesn't mean that you're getting a better deal. It just typically means it's littered with contractual loopholes. So that's the conversation that we're having, and I'm sure Sean and Jeff are too, is, it's less about whether it's $200 a month or $150, and more about that all those words are stacked in their favor as much as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's something called a non-cancelable guaranteed renewable contract, and you'll see that on the contract. To me, every line in the contract is important, right? But by having those words, that means that the contract cannot change throughout your career up to the end of the policy period, which is typically age 65. I'll generalize. Usually it's age 65, right? What I would say is, you have different advisors. We might all configure a policy differently, possibly have different amounts, and the way it's configured may end up with a different cost structure. Companies charge different amounts for the same features sometimes. And if you're out there and you're saying, I can't really figure out how to compare these, you can always get an illustration from the advisor before you apply, right? And if you're getting conflicting information about a contract, we provide spec policies. And a specimen policy is a copy of the actual contract themselves. And we have them for all the companies that are out there that we deal with, as well as others that we don't suggest. And we'll go through and explain and read it to you and show you so that it's clear. So to me, it's every line is important. Feel free to ask for those resources. You don't need to take our word for it. Let's sit down and we can read the contract together, and then you'll be comfortable and you can make an educated decision for yourself.
Yeah. When you're going through the education process of learning about disability, looking at different contracts, looking at how to design the right policy the right way the first time, right? That's the important piece of the puzzle there. There's things called riders and features, right? And it's what makes the policy stronger than just the base contract. And so, in my opinion, one of the most important riders is each company calls it something different, but it's either the partial or the residual rider. And the reason I say that is not all disabilities are the same. Not all disabilities are total losses. In fact, a lot of them are, hey, I just can't do 100% of what I was doing before. I need to make sure that my benefit is going to pay me a portion of my benefit. And that's the importance of a residual contract. And a lot of times, if you're not working with somebody that understands those contracts, it can easily get left off. And it definitely presents a big issue down the road. Mm-hmm. So something to keep an eye out for. Mm-hmm. But there's several of those riders that, in my opinion, I'm sure Tyler and Sean would feel that make up a strong contract.
Yeah, it might be outside the scope of our time, but I think that I agree. The majority of claims, and we're going to talk about some claims experiences, I think,
Oh, right.
have a partial component. So it's really important to understand how that partial works, as well as the other features. But like I said, get it in writing. If you're not clear, you're not comfortable, get an illustration, get a specimen policy. We want to be transparent and we want to educate. That's the best practice, and that's how we get our best clients.
Awesome, awesome. And so Tyler had quickly mentioned a $50 claim, or a $50 plan might not necessarily be the best plan. We have no idea what the price range on a very standard plan might be. So if you all can you kind of tell us what the average price of a plan might be? And can you kind of inform us on the benefits of us actually getting our disability insurance before we graduate? Because I think we can do that, so can you all break that a little bit?
Sure.
Yes, I'll start. So I think, disability can be as expensive or inexpensive as somebody wants, essentially based upon how good of a job we do. So it's not like buying a car where the price could just be anything. This is a very regulated industry. So our process is when we, get a client approved, we have a meeting, we let them into the software, and we let them participate in that process, and they can see the costs go up and down in real time, and we work on it together. But, generally speaking, for a healthy 27-year-old graduating dental student, I would say roughly budget maybe $100 a month or so without cutting corners. And it certainly can be 200, it can be 50. Right. But obviously cost matters. And I think it's incumbent upon, the broker to help coach that client through designing it in a way that's affordable, but at the same time, not compromising the integrity of what we're trying to do in the first place. But I think that's a reasonable budget.
What I say, guys, is, I know price is always a factor, but you're looking for value, right? And for me, if I'm advising somebody, you want to get as much as you can afford as soon as you can, because I don't want you to be in the position that you can't get coverage because of a health issue. And oftentimes, if you apply while you're still a student, a third-year dental student can get disability insurance. We've all helped them get policies. In some instances, there's discounts associated with the policies because you're still considered a student. So there's some incentives to think about that, and those discounts stay on the policies sometimes throughout your entire career. But age differences, policy differences, it's a tough question that I can get you a policy as low as $25 a month. Is that going to, I need to sit down and talk to you and say, is that the protection you want to have? And if so, great, I'm here for you. But I would suggest that we look at other options. Yeah.
I would say that the general rule of thumb, and I've been practicing selling disability insurance over the last 15 years, is usually somewhere, 25, 27-year-old male, female should probably spend somewhere around 1.5% to 2.5% of their income should be a good kind of gauge as to what the cost of insurance would be. So, somebody that's, making or expects to make somewhere around $100,000, you can expect to pay somewhere around $2,000, maybe a little bit less, depending on, what Sean was talking about, those variables, or how you design the policy. But I think that's the sweet spot. You start, asking someone to pay 3.5%, 4% of their income to protect 60 to 70% of their income. You tend to step back and say, is it worth it? Do I need to make some adjustments here?
Right. And I think Sean said something that I think is really important. I wanted to just say again for the listener's benefit here, and I say the same thing to clients all the time, which is just get something in place. It may not be perfect. So if budget is, every $10 is the end of the world, let's just get something in place. And I mean that because I think usually as people, the purchasing behavior of things is if we want something, we just buy it when we're ready and we can afford it. But with disability, it's definitely the opposite experience that most people don't understand, is that a lot of times these carriers want to think about you more than you want to think about them. In theory, you could be writing tiny little checks for a long time and they could be writing huge checks. So I wanted to echo what Sean said, and we mean it, and it's authentic, that don't wait. It's not sales talk. It's not about commission. It's living the experience of seeing all these young dental students graduate and get out and giving them the bad news that they can never get disability. And they're like, what do you mean? And it's just, it's horrible. And we've all seen it. And we mean that.
Yeah, I agree with Tyler, right? Build something, build a policy, and then let it grow, right? As you grow in your career with certain riders that will allow you to increase coverage along the way without having to prove medical underwriting.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. And, recently, obviously a lot is going on with the COVID-19 pandemic that's happening right now. Have you guys seen any fluctuation with maybe pricing of insurances? Are claims changing the verbiage that they're using, to include, things like this, pandemics or extenuating circumstances that happen like this, just to, kind of cover themselves in the future? Do you see a lot of change of like that happening at all?
No. As far as future changes in disability insurance, I don't foresee an impact on the contracts or the pricing. Like I said, we have actuarial studies for decades that are leading the companies to understand how to price these things. We have seen some underwriting changes and enhancements. I don't know if you guys want to touch on those.
A lot of car carriers are waiving blood and urine. A lot of them have been doing that for a while anyways, but typically you give some blood and urine to get disability approved, and I think it's just a bad idea for a little bit longer to have nurses in and out of people's houses. So we're seeing some concessions there. So for most people, I don't know of any disability insurance that excludes coronavirus or any virus for that matter.
Okay.
Now, there is confusion where people get it and their disability is a payout, but it's not because the contract excluded it. It's just because they didn't meet the waiting period, which is typically 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that it's excluded or their claim was denied. It's just they were out 2 or 3 weeks and, they didn't meet the waiting period.
Yeah, I mean, it's just my opinion, and who's to say what future contracts language will say, but I haven't heard anything in the industry talking in that regard to disability insurance.
Oh.
Yeah. There were obviously a lot of dental offices across the country that were closed down due to the recommendations of the CDC. So there's, when certain dental clients of one of these carriers were trying to increase coverage, right now, some of the carriers are saying, we're only gonna look at 75% of last year's tax return in order to allow for an increase. But other than that, I haven't seen any changes in the rates or anything like that. So
I would say that if you had foreign travel or you have foreign travel plans, you probably rescheduled them. But if you did, or if you've been diagnosed, you're probably going to have a postponement more than likely until you return to work and have recovered. But that's pretty much the extent of what we've experienced in the disability insurance income market.
Okay, awesome. And in preparation for this, we actually asked some of our classmates if they had any questions that they wanted to ask you all. And so we got some feedback, and one of the main questions, believe it or not, had to do with chiropractors. We're already starting to feel a little tense, but somebody in our group chat suggested that we shouldn't be going to the chiropractor right now as dental students because that can affect our disability insurance in the future. Can you all speak on that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I would elaborate and say that's one of the reasons why this done young while you're healthy before things change, because one little thing like that, I forget where it was out west, but somebody brought this chiropractor in and he literally saw every student somehow. I don't know what happened, but somebody lined this up. It was like a benefit that was very cheap. It was like $10, $15 to be seen by this chiropractor, and he ruined everybody's insurability. Yeah. It was a big thing. But yeah, you always want to be honest. That's the most important thing when you're filling out these applications. It does you no good to hide anything. You want to be honest, get ahead of it. That way you're playing a little bit of offense and not defense when it eventually comes up. But I'm sure these guys will agree in some situations if there's exclusion wording, you can negotiate where it's temporary, where a certain amount of time goes by, that exclusion wording can go away. But I would definitely.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Jeff. It's your turn.
All I was going to say was that, there's a difference between going to a chiropractor proactively, maybe for ergonomics and stretching and stuff, right? Things are a little bit different, and you could be proactive versus you having there's a very clear pre-existing condition with areas of your spine that you're truly maintaining. You're going 2 to 3 times a month or more. So it really, it's just different. Each situation is handled a little bit different. And that's a good advisor is going to be able to communicate with the underwriter and explain exactly what's going on.
From the human side, and, if you have a medical issue, that comes first. You know, you
Right.
gotta take care of yourself. That comes first, right? But if you have treatment, and I got to echo Tyler. I want to have your future potential claim, if we need to help you with it, be on the bedrock of honesty, right? That you don't work with an advisor that would say, "Hey, we just won't put that down in the application,"
Yeah.
because they'll underwrite. The insurance companies are, you know, they're underwriting and putting resources to see if they want to insure you now. But 5-6 years down the road, if you need to use it, and they find out that you somehow misled or did not put the truth on the application, we'd have a serious issue with how that claim might be handled. So, you know, take care of yourself. Report what is in your medical history. Get the best policy you can, and then as time goes by, like Tyler had said, and Jeff had said, we may be able to go back and ask the insurance company to reconsider the decisions they've made and strengthen the policy. That's the best advice that I can give you.
And so with regards to medical history, another question that kept coming up, you know, when we do report our medical history to you all, how far does it go back? And one of our classmates actually, he said that he broke his hand while he was in high school. And so granted, that was maybe like 10 years ago.
At least 10, yeah.
But would that still impact his disability insurance today?
Most of the questions are going to say the last 10 years. You know, there's some questions that will say, have you ever? You know, those are the big ones like cancer, heart disease. But many of the questions are going to say in the last 10 years.
Okay.
But you may say yes to that, have you ever, and it doesn't impact your policy. You know,
Right.
Let's say I broke my hand 10 years ago and it was really, really damaged, and I have pins in there. I have some kind of hardware. Well, that's going to be a much more serious consideration than me just breaking it and then having no issues afterwards, right? So everything's a spectrum, and what we can do as advisors is, like Jeff said, is present your situation in the most honest and clear way, and try to assist you to get the best offer possible.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what Tyler was talking about earlier is like a temporary exclusion on it. That's what we see a lot of times is they'll say, hey, you know, we're going to issue this policy, but there's a 2-year exclusion for that left hand or that right hand. And so what we'll typically do after that 2-year period of time, we'll go back to the underwriter and submit an adjustment application to lift that exclusion. So again, you know, work with somebody that's going to be able to handle that stuff.
And so right now, you know, obviously with things a little bit slower, being able to get into doctor's offices and things like that, I guess what would your first steps be to a student, say, that's trying to, you know, optimize this right now to start getting this ball rolling? You know, like, would it be go to, you know, plan a doctor's office now? Should it be talk to an insurance agent first? Should it be, you know, kind of figure out what your state policies are, where you want to work? Like, how, like, I guess, what would the spark notes of the process be like?
Who's up? Am I up?
No, go for it.
Yeah.
We'll keep the same order so we don't get confused here. So I would say just get started, educate yourself, you know, take a meeting with any of the three of us. I mean, we're all going to give good advice. It's a relationship type business, you know, you're going to want your broker with you for a long time, especially if there's a claim scenario.
Yeah.
But all of us are very well connected in dentistry, you know, and I've spent a lot of time building relationships in dentistry that I think our clients can benefit from. You know, if one of my clients needs a job, I can probably find them a job in like 2 minutes, depending on where they are, or buying a practice, or they need to sell one. So it's not just the disability insurance you're getting. You can get that from anybody. You know, you're getting the relationship.
Yeah.
And I would say there's some confusion there just because of your question, the way you asked it. You know, when you say medical underwriting, that's a process that the insurance company takes care of. You sit down with a licensed insurance advisor, you look at all your different options, and now you say, I want to apply for a policy. Well, the advisor has to do the policy with the application with you, answer all the questions, and then you sign forms saying that you told the truth, and basically that the insurance company can look at you to see if they want to insure you, right? After that, there's nothing, you don't need to go to a doctor. If they need to have labs, they'll send someone to get a lab, which is not likely for the amount of coverage you're looking for. It's really the homework is figuring out who you want to work with, figuring out which policy you want to have, and then doing the application with a licensed advisor or
Okay.
insurance agent. And then after that, then we do the heavy lifting. We take it from there.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, just to reiterate what they're saying, you know, from an education standpoint, you know, it's important to spend that time and really understand the language of the contracts, right? The definitions, the riders, the features, not even taking a look at the illustrations, you know, until you truly understand what's going on, how to design the policy. And then you should reference those proposals, those sample proposals. And any of us have the ability to present all the options that really are out there, with the exception of a few. So yeah, just the more education that you can gather, and it doesn't necessarily have to be right before you graduate or right before you start your new job. You can really spend a lot of that, you know, education time prior to graduation. That's where I spend a lot of my time.
Gotcha.
Awesome. And so we're nearing the end of the interview, and we would like each of you just to kind of give us some closing remarks with regards to the overall subject of disability insurance.
Sure. Tyler, let's go in order.
Yeah, buddy.
Remarks. This is a hard one. In what sense? Closing remarks. Can you give me a little more?
Or I guess you could, you know, just, you know, tell everybody how to get in touch with you. You know, and like, you know, I guess, you know, give a little spiel about the benefits of going through the process and just kind of, you know,
it's funny.
give a good example of, you know, when it came in handy or something. But yeah.
Yeah, and regrettably, I just realized I never even mentioned the name of my company, which is Doctors Disability Specialists. I think that's important. Our home office is a little bit north of Boston, Massachusetts, in a town called Middleton. We've all been working remotely for a couple months, and we're looking forward to get back to our office, but we haven't missed a beat. I'll give my cell phone number for the time being, which is 978-766-0829, and I would say that, you know, I'd love a chance to audition to work with anybody that's you know, listening to this and help them through this process.
Yeah. So, you know, I appreciate you having us on, guys. It's been fun. You can tell that the panel, we're all nice guys, and we all care about what we do, right? I think when you start to look at obtaining disability insurance, it's likely one of the first decisions you're going to be making in your financial life, right? So I think you need to have a litmus test to try to, you know, evaluate who's right for you and who you want to work with and partner with, right? So my advice is to start thinking about that process, right? Is the advisor I'm looking to work with positioned to work with me no matter where I go in the nation, right? And they provide more services to me as I become more sophisticated in my career. How long has the company been in business? Are they endorsed by any professional associations? You know, and you know, just how can they partner with me to help make my life easier to hit my financial goals as I go through my career? And are they laser focused and specialized in dentistry? So to me, I think that's the starting point. And you want to start to really kind of see who's a good fit for you in that process. And then from there you go and you want to look for some independence. You know, I know all of us, you know, I'm going to show multiple different insurance companies for the same type of policy, and help you understand which ones are, in our opinion, the best ones, and which ones, in our opinion, would be the best for you to look at as a dentist. You know, we have over 21,000 dentists as clients, so, you know, all of us are specializing in that niche market. And then after you get through that independent advice, you're going to be really well equipped to make the best choice for you.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that, right? It's an opportunity for you to figure out who you like working with. You know, I've said it a couple of times. I consider myself first and foremost an educator. You know, we're gonna talk a lot about, you know, how to design the policy the right way the first time, and that goes with all the features and the riders and definitions and all that stuff. So we take that opportunity to really educate. The implementation process is easy, right? It's building the relationship, and once we have a very clear understanding as, you know, what our clients want, we're gonna provide that implementation and then service, you know, to them, obviously moving forward. So, you know, like Sean was saying, having that independence to be able to provide several different solutions is important. And then working with someone that has experience on why one product or one carrier, it tends to be a little bit more favorable than others, right? And there's a few that are certainly in that category. So, but again, I appreciate the opportunity to be on today. Again, Venture Insurance Group is my firm. Tyler said gave his cell phone, so I'll do the same. It's I'm a 919-270-6585 number. Again, I'm nationwide. I'm all over the place. I happen to just operate out of the North Carolina area, but every opportunity I can get back to the New England area, I definitely take advantage of it. Jeff at ventureinsurancegroup.net. So thanks again.
I've been doing shameless promotion the entire time. Sorry, guys. If we're giving cell phones, I don't want any silly texts, but it's 603-361-3759, Treelore Online. Advisors across the nation, everyone's a non-commissioned employee trained by Treelore and Heisel Uniform Advice. So, I'm sorry to circle back, but I did forget to say who I'm affiliated with. Once again, guys, thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys again, Sean, Jeff, Tyler, for, explaining a little bit more about what dental insurance, disability insurance really is, and, providing a little bit more information for that. So hopefully you guys get a wave of students coming, contacting you guys, looking for a little bit more information. But we just want to say thank you for taking some time out and speaking with us and giving this information.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Good job, guys.
Awesome. For all you guys out there viewing, if you haven't already, make sure you add a comment, ask a question that you might have for one of these guys, hit them up directly. If you haven't already, hit the like button, the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you guys always for tuning in.
All right. Thank you all.